too Haute to handle, and I'm your host, Haute. On today's program, we're going to do an age-old classic, spaghetti. Now I can hear you thinking, spaghetti? Why spaghetti? Everybody knows how to do that. It's so simple. Put it in a pot of boiling water and let it cook and you're done. Well, we all know how to do spaghetti, but we all know how to do it wrong. Now, I've recently seen a little life hack on the internet that explains how to do this a better way, and I've tested it out and it absolutely works. So today we're going to show you how to revolutionize the way you cook pasta. Alright, let's get cooking. First thing is, on the old way, which is no good anymore, you have to fill and fill and fill a big pot of water. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait. Then you take that big pot of water to the stove, turn the heat up on high, and you gotta wait for it to boil. And we wait. And we wait. And we wait. And you could be waiting 20-25 minutes for this thing to boil that large a volume of water. No good. Not how we do it anymore. This is a new day, a new century. Let's move on to show you how we really do it. Now, conventional wisdom will tell you that you need a big giant pot so that your pasta has plenty of room to freely move around, and if it doesn't, it'll stick together. And it also says that before you ever put the pasta in the water, it must be at a raging rapid boil, or also the pasta will stick together and make big lumps of clay. Well, I'm here to tell you that's just not true. Well, I mean, it is true if you use that old school method, but there's a new way to do it. And you don't have to have all that water. You use a fraction of the water, a fraction of the heat. It takes a fraction of the time to do it. And your pasta will never stick together. It'll come out perfectly. So here's what we do. Now all we really need is a shallow pan like this. You don't need that giant tall pot, stock pot to cook in. Now, to start off, place your pasta, measure it out in your hand. This is enough for about, if I circle my fingers and thumb around it, that's enough for about 2 or 3 servings. What you'll do, just put them straight into the pan. This is dry, no water in there at all. Right there. Turn on your heat to high. And then, this is very, very cold water right out of the refrigerator. And no, it's not going to make your pasta stick together, but you pour it on here. And not a lot. You put just enough to barely cover the top of this pasta, however high it's standing. And that's all you need. And so, since you're using such a small amount of water, it's going to come to the boil very rapidly. Now, while we're waiting on that, we will just take a little bit of salt. Nice big pinch. That's maybe, a 1/4 teaspoon or so. To get that ready. And the final touch, I've got just a little bit of olive oil that I'll put just a tiny splash in there. Now the olive oil is not to make it slippery or anything. What it actually does is when the water starts to boil, it keeps the starch from forming tough bubbles that will overflow the pan. And that's it. We're just going to wait for a couple of minutes, a fraction of the time that it takes that giant pot to boil, and we'll have pasta before you know it. Now the reason you start off with absolutely cold water is because that's how you prevent the pasta from sticking together. Now if you put it in almost boiling water, then the starches of the pasta leach out and they basically glue itself to itself. But this way, with absolutely cold water at the start, it seals that pasta and basically locks the starch into the pasta until later on. Now, this has only been a minute or two and it's already starting to boil. Now, the only thing you have to do is every now and then, as it starts to boil, give your pan a little shake like this. And that's it. Leave it for another minute or two, and every now and then we're going to come back as it starts to boil and just give it a little shake and spin around so that that pasta doesn't cook to the bottom of the pan. And that's all it takes. We'll do this a couple more times as it starts to boil, and I'll show you just how quickly this is done. Right, just another minute has gone by, and you can see it's already starting to boil a little more rapidly. Just come back again, give it a little twirl, and you can see these noodles are already starting to become a little bit more flexible. Give it a slight little shake every now and then. Now basically what we're going to do, you can see this water evaporating, but more than evaporate, what's going to happen is these noodles are going to absorb most of that liquid. Now we're not going to cook it dry. We do want a little bit of liquid left in the pan, but that's how it's going to know it's done, is when that liquid becomes thick with the starch and there's just a little bit left in the pan, and that pasta will be cooked perfectly at that point. Okay, another minute or so has gone by and we're getting closer. You can see that level of water has gone down. Just give it a little stir. A little swirl is all you need. And that water is becoming starch-laden, as it were. And we are almost there. You can see, you know, it doesn't really pool up. It's mostly gone. Now this is exactly what you want. At this point, you can turn that heat way down to just barely on. And while that water is still there, actually I'm going to quickly remove it from the heat for just a moment so we can work our sauce. We're going to use that little bit of water that's left over in there to help create our sauce, and it's great if you're doing a butter and cheese sauce or a tomato sauce or whatever. It is perfect to use. It's already been salted and it's already got that thickener, which actually will help the sauce, whatever sauce you make, stick to the pasta. So back on the heat, get a tad of butter here. We'll just stir that around and let that butter melt all over the pasta. Now, the young person in my house loves spaghetti, loves noodles, but for whatever reason cannot stand the tomato-based pasta sauce. So she always loves the butter treatment. And that's good. That butter is mostly melted, so you just want to stir it up. And you notice none of this is stuck together. It's cooked to a perfect al dente. And now, we'll just have some of your common, everyday, dried Parmesan cheese. And instead of sprinkling it on the table, I love to sprinkle it on here at the stove. And you can put a generous amount. And what this does is it reconstitutes it. Instead of it being a dry cheese that you put on the table, it re-moisturizes it. It becomes nice, soft, gooey, like melted cheese. And there you go. That is just about the perfect offering for spaghetti for that person that likes a buttery cheese sauce. We're done there. So I can take out her portion, put that in her bowl, and it's just perfectly good to go. Now, if you want some other sauce, I generally like to make a homemade spaghetti sauce, but just for expediency today, to show you how quick and easy it is, just a jarred spaghetti sauce. You can get any brand, any variety that you like. Put a bit in there, not a whole lot. You don't need a whole lot, because the rest of this sauce is going to help it adhere. Swirl that around. And it's got all that cheese melted into it. It's reconstituted, not just that dry, flaky stuff that you put on the table. And before you know it, man, you've got yourself a great plate of spaghetti. Ooh, let's pop it out of there. Making a little bit of a mess here. But certainly you can be neater with it. I'm just going very quickly to show you how it goes. And that is that fast. And I think we've probably taken less than 10 minutes from start to finish to cook and serve this pasta, instead of the 40 minutes it could have taken had you used the traditional method. This is Miss Georgia. She's our taste tester. So let's see how she feels about it. What do you think? 2 thumbs up. Anything you want to say about it?
I really like Howard's food because he always makes it the best, and I'm not joking.
Thanks, sweetie. Dig in. Yummy. And there you have it. Pasta for the new century. That's all for today on Too Haute to Handle. Come back again and see what's cooking.